wondered if I could get your view on the fact that the Prime Minister has received a fixed penalty notice for not wearing a seat belt. It's the second time he's had a fixed penalty notice from police. Do you think that Rishi Sunak should consider his position?
I think it just makes Rishi Sunak look ridiculous. I mean, if you think about this week, we end this week, let's look back at what's happened. You've had Keir Starmer has been at the World Economic Forum, trying to promote Britain, trying to get investment in the UK, setting out our plan for economic growth, and so on. And meanwhile, you've got Rishi Sunak, who can't even fasten his own seatbelt. And I think basically it just makes the government look ridiculous and that they are not up to running the country.
Well, he would say he was on very important business, sorting out and explaining his Levelling Up fund up and down the country. And he did own up straight away, didn't he, to this? And if you just look on social media, you can see there are plenty of photographs and videos of Labour leaders who at times haven't been wearing seatbelts as well. Do you think the whole thing's a bit overblown?
I think it adds to a sense that Rishi Sunak is just not on top of his job, that he's not on top of what's going on, that he's not really up to this, and that they haven't really, they're not really in control of what's going on. I mean, if he can't fasten his own seatbelt, how is he going to run the country? I think, though, you make a point about the size of the penalty and how serious it is. It does reflect on the Prime Minister, but obviously there's another penalty that we're talking about in the news at the moment, which is Nadhim Zahawi, reported to have paid a much larger penalty for an apparent failure to pay his taxes correctly. That's really serious as well. But again, that circles back to the Prime Minister because, Nadhim Zahawi has been appointed as the chair of the Conservative Party by Rishi Sunak. And so why is Rishi Sunak letting him continue in this position?
Yes, those are allegations made this week against the Conservative Party chairman. The Guardian, as you say, adding to the reports, alleging that the money paid to HMRC by the current Tory Party chairman, former Chancellor, included a penalty. I should say that Nadhim Zahawi, his spokesperson, has said that he doesn't recognise the numbers that are being put out there, that he's never sought legal advice for dealing with HMRC and insists that his taxes are up to date and fully paid in the UK.
Well, you quoted what the spokesperson there said for Nadhim Zahawi, and I think that's, what we've seen is a series of responses from the spokesperson for Nadhim Zahawi, which have been very carefully worded responses, which haven't denied certain key elements of the story. And frankly, when you listen to all of the statements put out, which have also changed quite a lot over time, I think the whole story just doesn't add up. And I think there are really big questions there to be answered about, the apparent failure to pay tax, the apparent penalty that he seems to have paid, and the fact that he can't give a straight answer about what happened. And this is not just anybody. I mean, if anybody had done this, it would be serious. But this is someone who was Chancellor a few months ago. This is someone who was in charge of the tax system of our country just a few short months ago, and who Rishi Sunak has been appointed to be chair of the Conservative Party. And it obviously speaks about Nadhim Zahawi and his behaviour, but it also speaks volumes about Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak appointing him to the position of chair of the party and then leaving him in that position now rather than taking decisive action.
Do you agree with those in your party who think he should be sacked over his tax affairs?
Well, I think his position seems untenable. I don't see how he can generate any trust or any confidence given all of this hanging over him. But it's if you think about all of the stories which are going around Rishi Sunak at the moment, whether it's Nadhim Zahawi or whether it's Rishi Sunak not managing to fasten his own seatbelt, it just gives this impression of the Prime Minister not being in control. Not being able to run his party, not being able to run his country, and it's time for a change.
OK, and I do want to ask you a little bit about energy, because I know that's something that you wanted to talk about today. Labour suggesting keeping the energy price guarantee at £2,500 past April. The support is supposed to diminish after that. So how long does Labour want that support at that level in place?
So we know that in the second quarter of this year, the energy price cap is set to rise to £3,000. And what we're saying is that should stay at £2,500 instead. That would be funded by strengthening the windfall tax that we first called for over a year ago, and which still has holes in it, which we've been pressing the government again and again to close and to tighten up the legislation to make it truly effective. We would use some of that money from a stronger windfall tax to keep that cap at £2,500 in the coming quarter. Now, beyond the coming quarter, we know that projections suggest that the energy prices may come down. So let's see where we are later in the year. But for the immediate period from April onward, we believe the cap should be kept at £2,500. The other really important part of this, though, is that we can't just have sticking plasters at every turn to keep getting us through the next few months. That is important. That is crucial to get people through. But we need to use this time as well to invest for the long run, which is why we're saying alongside that immediate help to get people through the months ahead, we should also be investing in clean power and insulating people's homes. Because if you had energy coming from clean sources, if you had properties in this country, insulated property, that would bring down the average household bill by £1,400, and that would make a real difference in the long run.
OK, James Murray, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining us.